Hey y'all! So last week as I was recording a gluten-free restaurant review, I realized that I'd never shared my story of how I started eating gluten-free. I've been eating gluten-free almost 10 years, so I thought I'd share that journey with y'all. Even as a young kid, my stomach would always hurt after dinner. We ate a lot of pasta and bread. We ate healthy, but there was still a lot of gluten in our diet. So I would always have stomach aches, and we didn't know why. At first, my mom just thought it was because that I was trying to get out of doing things, which is pretty typical mom thing, I think. She feels bad about it now, but she just thought I didn't want to go to karate class or I didn't want to help with the dishes, but my stomach was actually hurting and I didn't really have a good way to explain how it was hurting. It just happened every night, so I thought it was kind of normal to have your stomach hurt like that. This escalated in middle school, and it got to where I would have episodes where I was throwing up in the middle of the night, probably once or twice a month. It would really happen on church trips where we would eat a lot of junk food, which shouldn't make a kid throw up, violently during the night. But I would eat a ton of Oreos and chips and other things that, yeah, if you eat a lot of them, they're going to make your stomach hurt, but you wouldn't get as ill as I did. When I was around 12, we went on a family summer trip to Yellowstone National Park. And one of the first nights we were there, we ate this huge pancake dinner, which was delicious. I remember that much. But then I felt gross the whole rest of the trip and just sluggish. My parents thought I had walking pneumonia. We really weren't sure. We just attributed it to some other illness that we just thought I had. But I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go on any hikes. I was just miserable during that whole trip. And now we think it's because of that huge pancake dinner that I ate that night. It got so bad that we went to a doctor about it, and they wanted to do a scope procedure to look down my throat. They thought that maybe there was the valve in my throat that keeps the acid from coming back up from your stomach. They thought that it was somehow malfunctioning and it was causing me to have just really violent acid reflux, and that was the cause of all of my stomach issues and all of my throwing up. I was not thrilled about the thought of having a scope down my throat, so I really was trying to look for other alternatives. So changing gears a little bit, my freshman year of high school, I was actually diagnosed with ADHD, and it was really bad and was affecting my ability to focus in some of my classes at school. And we started doing more research on it, and I came across a book that said that eating gluten-free can actually help with that. So we started doing more research and reading up on it, and the more and more we read about gluten-free diets and reasons why people go gluten-free, it sounded more and more like the problems that I was having. At this point, I was 14 in high school, and the thought of cutting out bread and cake and pasta, which was like my major food group, I loved pasta. I still love pasta. That just wasn't really appealing to me. So I kind of halfway committed, and I didn't really see results, because if you don't fully commit, you don't see results. But my mom was trying, but we didn't know that you had to just fully commit and, quit eating gluten entirely in order to see results. This was still back in 2010. Gluten-free was not really a fad yet, so there weren't a ton of options available then, so it made it just even harder to go gluten-free. But I was a huge tennis fan, and my favorite tennis player, Novak Djokovic, also around that time announced that he ate gluten-free. And so that just really helped me decide, like, okay, yeah, cool. I look up to him as a tennis player, and he eats gluten-free, so I can eat gluten-free. And that really helped me push me over to the edge of going entirely gluten-free and eliminating it from my diet. After that, I never looked back. My stomach troubles went away. We went to a pediatrician and talked with her about it, and she didn't believe the whole gluten-free thing, which is kind of disheartening. If you have a problem and then you eliminate this food from your diet and your problem goes away, you're like, okay, yeah, that's where my problem came from. And to hear her say, oh, you're just making it up, I don't believe in it, was pretty disheartening, honestly, especially as a 14-year-old kid. But my mom really encouraged me to stick with it, and we got an allergy test done to see if I was maybe allergic to wheat. I'm allergic to everything under the sun except for food items. So we just from there determined that it was a gluten intolerance. Who knows? I might actually not be gluten intolerant, but there's something that comes with gluten, or it's the gluten itself or something that makes me violently ill when I eat it. So I avoid it because I don't want to get sick. Some people ask me, they're like, oh, don't you miss eating bread? Don't you miss eating cake? And it's like, not really, because I don't miss that feeling of getting super sick, because I was miserable. I'd be up all night throwing up and I'd have to get up and go to school like 3 hours later. And that was just awful. So I don't miss it at all. There's some people that think it's still just a diet. It's been 10 years and I have some people that ask me if I'm still eating gluten free. Yes, I will probably eat gluten free the rest of my life. I really don't want to risk it with trying to see if I can actually eat gluten and wheat again. There's no point. There's so many options now with eating gluten free. I can find almost anything gluten free. I have not found gluten free Pop Tarts yet though, so I was looking the other day. If you find them, let me know. My moment of realization was after a trip to Olive Garden. I think it was like my sophomore or junior year of high school. And we went to Olive Garden and they had the gluten free pasta and I ate it and we were driving home and I was like, okay, I feel full, but my stomach's not hurting. And I'd never experienced feeling full before without having a stomach ache with it. So that just totally just blew my mind because I didn't know that you could eat and not have your stomach hurt, or like, even eat a lot of food and not have your stomach hurt. And that was just crazy to me. So that was my point of like, okay, this works. I'm not going back. I'm not going to even try to eat these foods. Sometimes I'll smell bread. If like the garlic bread at a restaurant looks really good, I'll smell it. But I don't even eat just a little bit of it because, I don't want to feel that way ever again. So eating gluten-free kind of was a challenge when you're going out to eat. It's gotten a whole lot better lately. But my first trip as an adult and after having to eat gluten-free to Walt Disney World was incredible. And this was even before like allergy menus were a huge thing at Disney. This was back in 2014. And we went to Coral Reef and I was not a fish fan, so I ended up getting the kids cheese pizza that was made gluten-free. And then afterwards, they had a flourless chocolate lava cake. It's really good, y'all. They still have it. I highly recommend it. But I remember being like, oh my gosh, this is a restaurant and there's gluten-free cake and they've made cheese pizza for me. And I just felt like a princess. And then the bakery in Norway had a gluten-free item. I think it had like something Frozen related probably. It was 2014. Frozen was huge. But just to have all those options, and it's only gotten better. And that's part of why I love Disney World so much, is because I don't have to worry about what I'm gonna eat. Most restaurants on Disney property are so accommodating, especially the ones that are owned by Disney. They take such good care of you if you have an allergy and if you have to eat gluten-free. And so that's part of why I love going to Disney so much, is I don't have to worry about what I'm gonna eat. So that's my story on how I started eating gluten-free. Let me know your story in the comments, or if there's any similarities. My hope that is that I can just help somebody else out there who maybe went through something similar to me or is going through something similar right now. There's so many options now, and really be your own advocate for how you feel and don't settle for, having your stomach hurt after every meal. There's no point to live like that. So make sure that you're paying attention to what you eat, and if you have issues, go to a doctor and do your own research and figure out what's going on with yourself, because it's not worth it to live your whole life with your stomach hurting. And it took me like 15 years to realize that. I hope this has been helpful or even entertaining, or I don't know, maybe it's been boring, but thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe, wear your mask, wash your hands, be safe, and we will see you later.